funny, I actually shot and edited this review already, and it was already supposed to be out on my channel like a day or two ago. But I got delayed putting it out, and then I was gonna put it out today, but then we got some very sad news from the comic book and nerd community, and that is that Stan Lee, Stan the Man, has passed away at the age of 95. And I just felt like I wanted to work a little bit of a tribute into this video because Stan Lee has been very influential on my life and on the lives of so many other fans out there. I offer my condolences to his family, of course, who are probably grieving harder than any of us could ever grieve. For anybody who knows me, I'm obviously a big fan of Marvel and their work in the comics. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man. He's like one of my favorite heroes ever. When I think Spider-Man, I think of Stan Lee, and so I just wanted to offer my support and my condolences to the family of Stan Lee, the fans of Stan Lee, and everybody out there who loves those cameos in those Marvel movies. Rest in peace, Stan the Man. You will never be forgotten, and you have left a pretty solid legacy here on Earth for us to try to pick up the pieces and follow after you. Now that all that is said, it's time to get back to our regularly scheduled programming and review Overlord, which again, I should have reviewed a couple days ago. So Overlord is a new horror movie, or it's a horror movie, but it's also a war movie. It's a war horror, or maybe it's a horror war type of movie. I feel like calling it horror war works best because it sounds like two promiscuous people just get into a fight in an alley or something. The bottom line is Overlord is a new horror war movie that is directed by Julius Avery. It's also been produced by JJ Abrams. The story here is that there is a group of soldiers that gets dropped behind enemy lines. They have a mission. They have to take out this tower or something. It's set during World War II, by the way. Yeah, that's right. So they're in Germany and they have to fight a whole bunch of Nazis and they have to take out this tower because if they take out the tower, air support will be able to lend air support and so the day will be saved and we all want that. Then while these soldiers are behind enemy lines, there's some really weird and creepy shit going on with the Nazis. The Nazis are taking people and they're taking them into this creepy place and they're experimenting on them and they're basically turning them into the living dead or, you know, zombies. So the soldiers have to take out the Nazis in their little freak show experiment things and they also have to do their mission and so we have a horror war movie. I'm not gonna lie, the trailer for this movie didn't really get me all that excited for it, but I saw JJ Abrams' name and I was just kind of like, JJ Abrams, that guy can't do any wrong. I'm just saying that guy usually produces and is attached to some very good pieces of work. No, don't throw that Netflix Cloverfield shit in my face, guys. I said most of the time. Point is, I was actually really surprised with how much I enjoyed this movie. What this movie is it's a B movie that's also trying to be an A movie. At least it's a B movie that somehow in the middle of production forgot that it was a B movie and tried to be an A movie the rest of the time. And so we have like a mixed mash of B and A. You guys know what a B movie is, right? A B movie is like one of those movies that you're scrolling on Netflix or Redbox for and you're looking at it and you're like, you know what, this looks kind of low budget. It looks a little bit silly, but I'm probably going to enjoy it. And then you end up watching it and the movie is low budget and it's a little bit silly, but you still end up enjoying it. So take that type of premise, that type of B movie, and then you add it to the production design and the musical score and the high level production of this movie and you have, let's just call it a B plus because I really enjoyed this movie. For starters, you got to start with the performances. Wyatt Russell, he plays the commander of the soldiers that get dropped behind enemy lines and I remember looking at him, I'm like, shit, yeah, it's the dude from 22 Jump Street. Yeah, you're doing pretty good in this movie. You know what? You remind me of a young Kurt Russell. Wait. Yeah, guilty. I forgot that he was related to Kurt Russell. Look, what do you want from me, okay? I'm not a walking, talking Google search bar. Point is, he was really good in the movie. He had some badass moments. He's the kind of leader that I feel like most of the men in this movie should be trying to follow. Everybody else in the movie is pretty good too. Granted, each character in this movie is kind of a cliche. Cliches in the sense that the characters in this movie are stereotypical tropes that you've seen in other war movies before. Sometimes a movie being cliche is okay. If you recognize the best things that work about those cliches and then you deliver with high-level execution, you can still have a pretty good time at the movie. So I'd like to give a shout out to Matilda Olivier. She plays a woman in the movie who ends up helping the soldiers with some stuff. She was actually pretty good. I didn't expect her role to be as big as it was in this movie. And she also had a few badass moments in the movie and she handled herself really well. The star of the movie is probably Jovan Abadayo, I think is his name. Abadayo or Amoeba, I can't remember. Yes, this is a character flaw, we know that. I can't remember his last name, but he was pretty good in the movie. The characters in this movie are kind of thin. I mean, you're not going to get a whole lot with them. They do the best they can with the material that they're given. But there's enough there. Like, there's enough little layers of depth sprinkled in the characters to get you somewhat invested in the action when it's going down. And speaking of the action in this movie is actually pretty damn glorious and awesome. The action set pieces are really intense. They're extremely well shot. Again, the production value of the movie. It's A+ material. This is really more of an action thriller type of movie that is set in a war setting that happens to feature some horror elements. So people who wanted a little bit more horror, they might be a little bit more disappointed that they didn't lean as far into the horror elements, but I thought for what the movie was trying to pull off, they did it enough. One thing that added to the intensity of the action sequences was the intensity of the musical score. The musical score in this movie is one of those musical scores where you're listening and you can't really tell while the movie's going on how fast your heart is beating. So it is a B movie, but when you have a B movie that's trying to be an A movie, there's gonna be some B movie problems that go along with it. There are definitely some really silly and over-the-top moments that happen in this movie, in particular with the way they decide to handle some of the dialogue for the characters. A lot of it feels like dialogue that's ripped right out of a video game you played. I'm not saying all dialogue in video games is bad. I'm just saying that dialogue is probably better served for video games, not for, you know, a movie that comes out in theaters. As a result, some of the big badass moments that happen in the movie kind of fall flat a little bit because, again, it's just a little bit too silly to be taken seriously. Also, a little bit of a lull that happens in the middle of the movie sometime in the second act where there's not a lot happening and some people might get a little bit bored. Bottom line is, though, Overlord is a pretty badass movie that has great action sequences, pretty good performances, pretty good production design considering it's a B movie in disguise. And I really enjoyed Overlord so much that I'm gonna put it in the Silver Age for Man of Steel. Alright guys, those are my thoughts on Overlord. Sorry I'm a couple of days late. No questions about Overlord. Tell me what your favorite Stan Lee moment is. This Stan Lee moment can be a great comic, or it can be a cameo in a movie that you've seen. Whatever moment for Stan Lee that you're going to remember the most about his life, put that in the comment section below. No outro out of respect to Stan the Man. Peace.